And my scripture reading on this Mother's Day, I was inspired by the reading of Exodus, chapter 2, verses 2 through 10. And the woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw that he was a handsome boy, she hid him for 3 months. And when she could no longer hide him, she took for herself an ark made of acacia wood and daubed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child into it and laid it among the reeds by the river's bank. And his sister stood afar off to know what would be done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe in the river, and her maidens walked along the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her maidens to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe was weeping. And she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call for you a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse this child for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." And the girl went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed him. And the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses, for she said, "I drew him out of the water." And that ends the reading of our scripture, Exodus chapter 2, verses 2 through 10. And I say again to each of you, happy Mother's Day. And I want to wish a happy Mother's Day to each of you, to the mothers around the world, to our mothers in spirit, to all who were like a mother to us, and to all who are a mother to humanity. My heart swells each year as I sit to prepare my Mother's Day sermon, reflecting upon what my mother means to me, and reflecting upon what mothers have done for humanity and continue to do for the world. They give us life in every aspect, physically, spiritually, emotionally. Mothers, they are just truly remarkable. And it's difficult to find words that are adequate enough to define what they mean to us. Their love and compassion is the glue of the family, and it reaches far beyond their own home. They have an innate instinct to care for their children, but to also care for the children of the world. It is so deeply rooted within every fiber of their being. The feminine energy in us, in all of us, is a caretaker, the nurturer. A mother works quietly behind the scenes. She doesn't do it for fame, glory, or praise. She does it because she wants to. She embodies the essence of God, of divine love. And she opens her heart and radiates this divine love to all who she touches. She is the Spirit of God in action. Little is said of the mothers in the Bible, and two notable mothers are Jochebed, the mother of Moses, and Mary, the mother of Jesus. Imagine this: without Jochebed and Mary, the world may not have had these two great men. And it is said, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So if the fruit of the tree bore Moses and Jesus, what does that say about their mothers? And our scripture today in Exodus focuses on Jochebed, the mother of Moses, and his adoptive mother, Bithia. Much is said in the Bible about Moses, but little is said about Jochebed, who gave him life, and Bithia, who raised him and became his adoptive mother. Jochebed's name is only mentioned twice in the Bible, and Bithia's name only once. Most often, Bithia was referred to as the quote unquote Pharaoh's daughter, as if she didn't have her own identity and couldn't think for herself. Oh, but yet we will learn she did think for herself. But yet, it was because of Jochebed's sacrifice and Bithia's motherly instinct to pull Moses from the Nile and raise him that Moses was able to grow up to fulfill his destiny, the destiny of becoming a great leader who led the Israelites out of bondage of Egypt to their freedom of the promised land. According to scripture, the Israelites were becoming stronger, and the Egyptians were quite concerned that they were becoming stronger than them. They didn't want this to happen. So the Egyptians tried to suppress the Israelites. They treated the Israelites as slaves and appointed cruel taskmasters who afflict many burdens upon them. But the more they oppressed the Israelites, the stronger they became. They had made their lives bitter with hard labor and made their living conditions unbearable. Little did the Egyptians know that God had another plan. The Egyptians felt so threatened by the Israelites that the Pharaoh asked the midwives to kill the male babies as they were helping to deliver the children. But the midwives didn't listen to the Pharaoh. They listened to God. And they didn't kill the male babies. And when the Pharaoh asked them why they had not done so, they told him that the Hebrew women acted as their own midwife. Since that plan failed, the Pharaoh then decreed that every son that was born shall be cast into the river, and every daughter shall be saved. Jochebed, who was a Hebrew, gave birth to a beautiful son, and her motherly instinct to save her child kicked in. She hid Moses for 3 months until she couldn't hide him any longer. She decided it was time to let go and to trust God. She put her baby in a waterproof basket and set him off into the Nile, where he would meet his destiny. Moses drifted to shore, where the Pharaoh's daughter, Bithiah, was bathing in the Nile and found him. And all the while, Moses' sister, Miriam, was watching as her brother was released into the Nile. And she saw him drift to the shore by the Pharaoh's home. So when Bithiah found Moses at the shore, Miriam told Bithiah she knew of a Hebrew woman who could nurse Moses. And ironically, the woman Miriam spoke of was Moses' mother. Talk about divine order. Jochebed continued to nurse Moses until he was old enough for Bithiah to adopt him. Now, Bithiah recognized that he was a Hebrew child. She was compassionate, and she looked beyond his Hebrew heritage. Bithiah took him in and loved him as her own. She had to have known that she was defying her father's decree by raising a Hebrew child in their home. Jochebed protected her child until she could no longer hide him. Her love for her child was so great that she was willing to let him go, hoping and trusting somebody would find him and raise him. She trusted that God would take care of her child. And that is selfless love. She was guided by God to put this little baby in a waterproof vessel. And of all of the places where this baby could have drifted to, it drifted to Bithiah. God truly works in mysterious ways. The Pharaoh was so concerned the Israelites would become stronger than he. And here he was, unbeknownst to him, he was living with the child who God sent to free the Israelites from the bondage of the Pharaoh and the Egyptians. And as a man, Moses became the leader and he led the Israelites out of Egypt. Jochebed, Miriam, and Bithiah listened. They listened and they followed the divine guidance to protect and nurture Moses so he could become the great leader he was destined to be. I would think perhaps they were handpicked by God, just as every person who nurtures the children is handpicked. We never know what we will be called to do. But when we are called, we want to be ready for our assignment. A mother will do all that is within her power to ensure her children's safety, happiness, and success. Some mothers, as Jochebed, they face the hard choice of having to give up their children when they are not in a position to raise them or give them what they need. That is the most selfless gift. Trusting the child will have opportunities she cannot give them, just as Jochebed did. They trust God will guide their child to the mother who was meant to raise them, and that this mother will love them as they do. Perhaps it was Moses' destiny to be released by his mother so Bithiah could raise him and protect him from the oppressiveness of her father. Metaphysically, Bithiah represents the phase in our growth where we are ruled by our physical world, but we're beginning to step out. We're beginning to step out and listen and follow that spiritual voice. In Bithiah's case, she was ruled by the Pharaoh. But at that time, at the same time, in this Bithiah phase, even though she was ruled by her father, the soul was focused on God and the love of truth. The soul was focused on something greater. And while in this phase, one has one foot in the physical and one foot in the spiritual. And we are learning to follow the guidance of the I am and listening to the spiritual voice for guidance. Bithiah defied the Pharaoh's order. She knew Moses was a Hebrew, and she hid this from her father. While she was ruled by her in the physical by her father, she listened to the spiritual voice and took him in. That day, she could have pushed him back into the Nile, but she didn't. She listened, and she put God first in front of her father. It is wise to use discernment. When man dictates one thing and you feel in your soul to follow another direction, listen. Listen to the inner voice. Man isn't always right, or man doesn't always do things for the right reasons. But God does, and God is always right. Part of our growth entails being wise and sifting through the barrage of information and worldly expectations. When we listen to the I am, to the voice of God within, we will never go wrong. And Bithiah represents this phase of beginning to use discernment, following God. And she followed God and the son that she raised, Moses. Moses represents the release from bondage of the old or worldly way of thinking. And this release from bondage, that's physical, that's the next generation or phase in our development. And this was ordained by God. As powerful as the Pharaoh was, and as much as he tried to stop what he knew was coming, he couldn't stop it. Nothing or no one can stop what is ordained by God. To realize the I am of God within us. Jochebed gave birth to, and she nourished Moses before he went out into the world to do what he was ordained to do. Metaphysically, Jochebed represents one who honors and glorifies God by expressing the love and truth of spirit. When we glorify God and put God first, God will take care of us. Jochebed lived her life in service to God by giving up her beloved son. Moses was the offspring of one who glorified God, and he lived his life in service to God. Jochebed sacrificed her son for the glory of God, but she was never far from him. A Hebrew boy who the Pharaoh wanted killed became his greatest nemesis and a great leader. The Pharaoh served man or himself. Moses served God. And what is destined by God cannot be stopped. All of this was possible because of Jochebed and Bithia. Both of them listened to and followed God. And interestingly, both of them accompanied Moses when he led the Israelites from the oppressiveness of Egypt into the promised land. The Catholic Church elected a new pope this past week, as many of you have seen on the news. And I have been touched by the stories over the past month, shedding light on who Pope Francis was and who the new Pope Leo is. Both are compassionate men who have dedicated their lives to helping the poorest of the poor and uplifting humanity, humbly serving God and God's people. The world is in great need of compassion. And as I watch these stories, they remind me of why we are here, to help each other, to make this world a little better place. And I'm inspired by their humbleness. I believe God knows exactly what the world is in need of right now. We never know what impact we may have upon a person's life, but God does. A mother gives from her heart, and she gives without any expectation. She showers us with unconditional love, whether she is our biological mother or not. She loves us as her own, and she would move heaven and earth for her children. Our mother taught us to live by example. As we give thanks to our mothers today and to those who are like a mother to us, let us pause to remember to lead by example, by paying it forward, showing compassion, and sharing our love with those who need lifted up, to aid those struggling emotionally, physically, spiritually, or mentally, to help those who have no food on their table or no one to care for them. As we were lifted up, let us lift up others so that they may rise to their greatest heights. Many blessings to each of you. And again, I wish you all a happy Mother's Day. Namaste.